All right, here we are, man. We are we're here. It's your boy Leon the Jokester, man, aka Pastor Leon Pearly, aka Apologist Pearly, aka your pastor's favorite friend. We made it. We made it, man. So with no further ado, let me get right into this because I don't want to keep you too long. And I know sometimes I can be long-winded when addressing matters. I come with a lot, when I present something. I come with a lot. I come with a plethora amount of knowledge and wisdom from God. God has opened up my heart to really, really research some things, and we're gonna get into that, man. But first thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out to all of the U.S. history teachers and professors all around the world. That's the first thing I want to do, because I don't want anyone to think that this video is about discrediting their hard work. I don't give a care if you're a white U.S. history teacher, keep teaching. I don't give a care if you're a black U.S. history teacher, keep teaching. I don't give a care if you're a Hispanic U.S. history teacher, keep teaching. And I don't give a care if you're a Chinese U.S. history teacher, keep teaching. Now, let's go back to the year 2000 and 2001, the year I graduated from high school, University City, to be exact, high school in St. Louis, Missouri. All right. And so when I was in high school, my U.S. history teacher, believe it or not, was Chinese. He was Chinese. I won't give off any names in the video just in case, just out of respect. But he was Chinese. And I know that a lot of people, they crack up, when I tell stories or whatever, like, how can a Chinese person teach U.S. history and they live in China? Or how can a white person teach me, a black person, about the transatlantic slave trade? It was their ancestors that did this. How can a Hispanic person teach me U.S. history and their families are illegal immigrants? I get all of those assumptions, stereotypes, prejudices, all of that stuff. I get it. I get it. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about something that happened on my Facebook page that I kind of wanted to address. Okay. So on Facebook, I thank God for Mark Zuckerberg. I want to give him a shout out. And I also want to thank God for the First Amendment, the U.S. Constitution. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech. Okay, so we all have the freedom of speech. Wow. So what does that mean? What does that mean today in 2021? It means that you have the right to speak your mind as long as it's not a hate crime or something that's like putting people down, or, and I mean, people still do it. We weren't born yesterday. We know social media has got turned up. Yes. Yeah. Social media is intense. You say something, man, you better be ready to be reprimanded. I mean, I was speaking about Jesus Christ and the gospel like a month ago, and Twitter banned me for 48 hours, 2 days, but when they brought me back, I came hardcore once again. I said, Jesus is the only king. And so, man, I love people. I want to say this before I get into my message. I love people. I post a lot on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I post a lot of things. And I just want people to know that, just because someone speaks the truth does not mean that they're mad at you, they hate you. If I tell you 2 + 2 is 4, and then you get mad because I gave you the correct answer, that's not my fault. That's something that you have to deal with a mathematician. I don't know what to say. If I tell you something from my heart, you can never take away someone's personal encounter. So if I, as a black men went to a school that really didn't teach me what they needed to teach me, or if I go to 10 job interviews and they all turn me down, that's my encounter, right? Now, because of freedom of speech, you can easily say, well, you're lazy. Keep applying to more jobs, but you're lazy. Well, that's what CNN may say, I'm lazy, but I just filled out 10 job applications. If I go online and say that, I think that U.S. history has been taught in fragments instead of the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God, that's my opinion. That's my encounter. Now, if someone feels convicted, or if someone feels like they may have done half of the job but got the salary, then again, that would be between them and God, or them and themselves, if you don't believe in God. So I think that that's very important to understand before I get into what I'm about to say, because I'm very clear with what I say. And when I speak, regardless if I'm saying something in America or internationally, it's from my heart, and there's a good chance I'm telling the truth. And I don't want you to just take my word for what I'm about to say. I want you to go do your own research. Just do your own research, and we'll leave it at that. Okay. So, high school, Chinese U.S. history teacher. My U.S. history teacher thought it was okay to talk the whole semester about hip hop music. I guess he grew up in America and he really, really loved hip hop music. I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop music, a lot of it. So, fall semester, right? You have August, September, October, November, December. Instead of me learning about U.S. history, I was being taught hip hop music. He wanted to relate to all of the black kids in the class and the two white people in the back. He wanted to be the cool U.S. history teacher. But you want to know who suffered? Me. That's right. Now, I know what most people are thinking. Why didn't you just go to the local library and check out books? Well, that's a whole nother story, because there was a library inside the school. Why didn't I go there and check out the books? Well, if someone is finessing you and they're not telling you what you should be looking up, you will never know. I'll say that again. If someone is finessing you and they're not telling you what you need to know, you will never know. So if I don't know U.S. history, how do I know where to start, where to begin? You can ask questions, but remember, learning is a mindset. Learning is a mindset. So during that time of my life, I may not have been compelled to go research a whole bunch of U.S. history, right? You hear everything in fragments. You hear people talking, I would go home and I would be surrounded by domestic violence. My parents argued and they fought all the time. So again, when you're at home, there's trauma. Then when you come to school, you're not being taught or educated or being educated on things. So it puts you way behind. So this cycle happened in elementary, middle school, and high school. So then now I get to college. I come to Tulsa, Oklahoma, 2004, and I am now a college student at Oral Roberts University. Okay. And so as a college student at Oral Roberts University, I don't think that I am at the freshman level of thinking in a college setting, right? All my white friends in high school, they were in AP courses. That's just another way of separating. It's segregation because we call this advanced placement. But the only people that end up in those classes in high school are white kids, kids from India, and Chinese kids, right? And so there's a few black kids, and maybe even today things have changed. But when I was in school in the late 90s, early 2000s, the AP courses was just another form of segregation. They won't tell you that, but they'll say, hey, the black kids are in these classes, but if we offer a test, the white kids will pass, the kids from China will pass, the kids from India will pass, and we can place them in a totally different classroom. You see how it works? So what happens is you see these things, but you don't think anything of it. You just say, oh, the smart kids are in the AP classes, and the dumb kids or the kids that are fooling around or the black kids, we're in the regular classes where the teachers are kind of like, if y'all here, let's talk about Wu-Tang Clan. If y'all are just going to hang out, you ain't in the AP courses. Let's just hang out and talk hip hop and talk about dancing. All right. So then what happens is when you graduate from high school, you feel like you really don't deserve to be graduating because maybe those teachers felt kind of like, let me just pass these black kids, get them out of my class, and I'm going to just move them on. But remember, when we graduate from high school, we may be uneducated still on a lot of different things. So then all of the kids in the AP classes, they end up going to prestigious schools, Oxford University, Harvard University, Yale University. And what happens is they're now really separating. You talk about segregation. Now you have black kids barely graduating from high school in the inner city, and they're just stuck in the inner city. Whereas the white kids that may have been in the inner city were in the AP courses, and then now they're going to the prestigious universities where now you see the segregation again in America, where you have those kids and the white kids, the Chinese kids, the Indian kids, whatever, right? Whoever, they are now away from all the crimes because they're at Harvard, they're at Yale, WashU in St. Louis. These are the top schools, right? Oxford University in England. You got to understand there is a separation. So then after I graduated from the high school, I'm in college now. I'm at Oral Roberts University. I now am placed in classes, and I'm maybe on the 9th or 10th grade English level, U.S. history level, math level, because I wasn't equipped for college. That was just the American dream. You go to college, you graduate, you get a good job, 9 to 5, make $40,000 a year. You get a house, you get a car, you start a family, life goes on. That's not the same story for every human being. So what happens now is there's a separation. Again, there's a segregation that happens if you're not paying attention. So then what happens is the person that went to the Harvards, the Oxfords, all of that stuff, they end up landing the high paying salary, and they end up going not into a neighborhood, but a gated community. And I'll tell you the difference. If you go into a bank, if I'm going into a bank, I can't just say I want to go into a gated community. They're going to want to know my debt to ratio. They want to know how much money you owe other people. They're going to look at your FICA, FICO. They're going to look at your credit score, all of that stuff, right? They're going to want to know how much money you're going to put down, how much money you're going to be able to invest into other like stocks and bonds because there's collateral involved. There's all of this stuff that's involved instead of you just being able to go in and say, I want a house, right? Now, in America, if you make a certain amount of money, you get a certain type of house. You get to live in a certain type of neighborhood. I once had a person tell me that Black people belong on the north side, North Tulsa. And this was a white person telling me this. And the thing that I think hurt the most is to think that this white person doesn't even know their history, because white people were the ones that destroyed North Tulsa. 1921, those black people were like millionaires. They were millionaires. It was like over 300 of them. There was black doctors, black lawyers, you know, they were, I'm sorry, I was thinking about another occupation, but I know they were black doctors, black lawyers, black business owners. And basically, there was white people that were jealous, and they not only destroyed the Black Wall Street, right, the North Tulsa, the Greenwood district. They not only destroyed it, but they killed the people. Those people are dead because of the spirit of jealousy. The thing about that is so sad is that now there's white people that don't even know the history of where they live. So they've been given fragments or the whole truth. So if they've been given fragments, then they will speak ignorantly about 1921 North Tulsa. But however, if for whatever reason they do know the whole truth, then they're just being prejudiced and racist, because it's either one or the other. Either you don't know what happened in 1921 in North Tulsa, or you do know as a white person and you're being ignorant and saying, oh, black people, they're just thugs. You see them on the news. They're just killing people, having a whole bunch of babies, eating watermelon and fried chicken. So they need to stay on North Tulsa. But what they don't tell you on the news is that in 1921, all of those black people were successful. Where do you think they got the term Black Wall Street? They got it from New York City. You ever heard of Wall Street? The Wall Street Journal? Those are wealthy people. I don't give a care what you say. The Wall Street, go to New York City. For those that like to travel, go to New York City and ask about the Wall Street wealth. That's what was going on in North Tulsa. But if you don't read books and you don't study your history and they only give you fragments, when I was in high school, they never told me about Black Wall Street, 1921. Did that not happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Is that not U.S. history? When I was in college at Oral Roberts University and I was taking U.S. history classes, did they not spend a whole month on having us do, and I'm not talking about skipping over something, talk about something for like 10 minutes, then skip over it, give a pop quiz and move on. You're doing us a disservice. U.S. history teachers, that's a disservice to the black community if you only talk about something for 10 minutes and then you move the class on to the next era or generation. No, you should have had every single black person, white person, Hispanic person, Chinese person from India. You should have had them check out books on the 1921, especially if we're in Tulsa. Come on, man. And you should have had every last person in that classroom do a report on the 1921 Tulsa riot massacre, the Tulsa race riot massacre. You failed, not me. As a professor or a teacher of U.S. history teaching in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you fail to tell all your students this is what you need to learn about U.S. history, you failed, not me. So what I'm saying now, and excuse me for my elevated Samuel Jackson voice, I get kind of passionate about these things because I know the history of America. For years, they had me thinking, the white man had me thinking Christopher Columbus discovered America. How you discover a land when it's already occupied with the first people, aka the natives, aka the Indians. Come on, somebody. But they don't want you to know that. They have this nice little picture of Christopher Columbus and this hat on, because I used to have the hat. These white teachers, these white U.S. history teachers in high school had me wearing the hat. I I would go home and tell my mom, I was like, Mom, I got the Christopher Columbus hat on. She was like, well, what did he do? I said, well, according to the white man, he discovered America. He discovered America? Yeah, Mom. He discovered America. Nobody was here. Because you know, Mom, when you discover something, you're the first. You're the first person. Mom was like, whoa, I didn't know. I've been cleaning the Jewish woman's house so much that my mom, she was a CNA, and she took care of Miss Stiefel. She was Jewish. And my mom was like, I've been cleaning her house so long that I've never studied U.S. history. I said, Mom, it's okay. They teaching me. They teaching me so I can teach you. Not knowing that it was fragments of the whole truth. So now where do we go? I'm in my second year in college. And I take a U.S. history class. And I really like the guy. I still do. That's kind of how this whole video came about, because I'm going to get into that in a second. So I take this U.S. history class because, you know, in college, you have to have the gen eds. And so I come into the class and I'm a little scared because I know intellectually I'm not there. I'm not there. I can't tell you about nothing but that the fact that my Chinese U.S. history teacher told me in St. Louis that Christopher Columbus discovered America. And like I said before, last time I checked, now 38 years later, now I know that there were the first people, the natives, the Indians, and a lot of them were killed and then sold into slavery in Spain. Why didn't they tell me that? They had me thinking that Christopher Columbus, anyway, because if they tell you the whole truth, it makes their ancestors look bad. We'll get to that in a second, 1619 to 1865. We'll get to that in just a second. We're going to break it down. We're going to break it down. Because I see right now, people are getting jobs in colleges and not breaking it down. People are getting jobs in high schools and they're not breaking it down. There was a black girl, they call her Miss Diaz, and it's a little teenage girl. She said, I'm sick and tired of coming to school, and every time I open up a book, it's a white kid with a dog. And I want to know, where's the black kids with the dog? And so she went on this whole campaign, and it was like she wanted people to donate books about black kids and the dog, I guess. And so then it became viral, and she became famous for this. I just found that out because I went to the local library and I checked out a book, and it was talking about like Black history, Black people that have been forgotten. And I was like, let me check this out. So I'm finding out about my culture and people, you know, like, for example, the movie Hidden Figures. I didn't know Black people were working for NASA, but see, that's the problem. They'll hire Black people to do the work. And then in the movies or whatever, they'll have the white person like, yeah, we're the executive director. But in Hidden Figures, it was the 4 Black ladies that just watch the movie. Just watch the movie. Just watch the movie. So again, I walk into U.S. history class and I hit it off with my U.S. history professor. He's a great guy, great man of God, great history teacher. I think he did a phenomenal job. I want to say that. There's no hard feelings of what was said. I'm going to get into that in a second too, because he didn't send the message through Messenger directly to me. He posted it publicly. So whenever someone does something publicly, it's like they're trying to make a point. And we'll get to that in a second. Because he did make a point. You know, I caught all 3 areas because I'm a master teacher. I teach classes on this. Don't go off what people say, go off their body language and what they say and what they do. That's what I meant to say, what they do. So what was said, right, was insinuating things. And we'll get to that in just a second. So again, I walk into the class, great guy. We hit it off. He starts allowing me to dance. You know, I've always been a great pop locker. You know, I can get it in. You know what I'm saying? I can, you know, I can battle. I can, you know, I can do all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, he always gave me that platform, and I appreciate him for that. I really do. I appreciate, you know who you are, because we just got done talking, and you'll probably click on this video because you see me post it on Facebook. So shouts out to you for the platform. Shouts out to you for being a great guy. I'll never in my life say anything bad about your character or about anything. Now, however, what was said in the public post on my page, that was another story. So, you know, whether or not he'll go after watching this, go take it down, or he may leave it. You never know. You never know what's going on in a person's heart. But, you know, I hope he leaves it, because, I mean, that came from his heart, even though on my end it said re-edit. So that means that he may have said something and then said, you know what, I better not say what's really on my heart, so let me re-edit. That's what it said. It said re-edited message. And so I was like, oh, okay. So he said something, then he changed it. So he changed it, and then I'll share what was said, because like I said, he didn't send it to me privately in my messenger. He did it publicly where everyone can see it. And when I did my posting, mind you, it wasn't to him. It was basically to my Chinese U.S. history teacher in high school. But because he was my history teacher at Oral Roberts University, he felt compelled to respond. And that's okay. When I post things, I have the First Amendment right. I don't say anything hurtful or hateful to anyone. That's not how we get down. We are filled with the Holy Spirit of God, and we come in love. But you got to also know we serve a God of justice. So I say this, okay? So I come into the class. He gives me the platform to be able to dance, be able to, perform in front of the people. He was like, man, look at Leon. He's doing all these cool dance moves and stuff. And so that was awesome. He knew how to connect far as the social skills were concerned. Now, again, depending on your education level when you get to college, sometimes Black people will end up in college because they went to a community college, passed 2 or 3 classes. Classes 3 credit hours. So 3, 6, 9, you have 9 credit hours. If a university says we will accept you with 9 credit hours, and then you write a letter, or acceptance letter, and then you can get in. You actually can get in. Why? Because it's not at this point based on the color of your skin or your education level. It's based on the amount of money that the bank's about to give you. Everybody in America is entitled to at least $100,000 from the bank. They don't tell you that. A lot of white people actually are aware of this. That's how they're able to go to the bank with good credit, get the loan, and then open up a business. If when you apply for college, like I did, I kept signing promissory notes. A promissory note is almost like slavery. It's like you sign your name, and then now you're saying, I will pay all of this money back. The only reason why we're in college is because the American dream is constantly embedded in our head. Oh, you're not going to be successful if you don't go to college. You're not going to be anybody if you don't go to college. So from that point, you're like, well, how can I succeed? How can I start a family and provide for them if I don't go to college? So all Black people are like, yeah, man, let's go to college, right? So we go to college, and then we get there, and then they present us with this contract. It says promissory note. And we don't really know what the word promissory means. We just say, hey, what do I have to sign so I can get validated? You go and get validated, and then now professors are not allowed, because it's a clause in their contract. Don't tell students that, are you sure you want to major in this? Because you just took out $25,000 for the whole year, and this job may not actually give you the resources or the benefits that you are looking for. I'm like, no, man, this is the major. This is what I want to do. What the colleges don't tell you is that there's no guarantee of that job when you graduate. That's the whole secret. The secret is to get you convinced that you need a college degree to succeed, whereas Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook owner, multi-billionaire, dropped out of college. Bill Gates dropped out of college. You see how it works? So then I signed the promissory note. Now I'm locked into something. You see the shackles? Yeah, they're invisible when you sign that promissory note. See, the shackles are actually inside the black ink that you don't read. There's no student that sits down and reads 20 pages of a promissory note. I'm sorry, you don't. You don't know anything about the APR percentages. You don't know anything about compound interest. You haven't read books at the local library to know any of that stuff. All you know is that you got to sign this note. You don't have to, but the American dream is on the line. So you sign it. You're like, man, I'm about to change the world. Let me sign this. Now you are locked in to being enslaved. I'm going to tell you why. Because slavery looks different now. You're not on the plantation anymore. Now you're in the building. So when you get that job that pays minimum wage, your plantation area is that cubicle. So you're going to be slaving for them. They'll tell you, oh, we need you to do X, Y, and Z, but we only can pay you this amount. No raises this year. So it's a different form of slavery. Okay. So again, I'm signing promissory notes. I'm uneducated. An educated person would say, what is this 20-page packet about? If you're uneducated, you're like, man, let me sign this. I'm about to change the world. I'm going to be like the Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. So then what happens is I submit the papers, right? The school sends it to the bank. They have a file. The school has a file. That way, when you graduate, if you graduate, and then they can track you. That's the reason why after so many years, they'll give you some grace. But then after 10 years, they're like, hey, look here, ain't no more mercy or grace. We need our money. Wells Fargo's calling Capital One. I know, I'm speaking from my own experience. This isn't me reading books. Well, I read books, but I'm telling you my experience. Capital One called me more than my mama. Wells Fargo, always on my back. Hey, Mr. Briller, you got a payment? Hey, when I get it, you get it. So anyway, so now I'm in this class, U.S. history, with my man. He doing this thing, bro. He's connecting, right? But then I noticed I was sitting in the back because I was insecure. Like, mind you, I don't know anything about U.S. history. I'm all the way I'm in college. I'm in university. This ain't community college. This is university. So then he's teaching. And I mean, of course, in his eyes, he's teaching what he's supposed to teach, the curriculum. Whatever the government put in those U.S. history books, that's the curriculum. That's the curriculum. There's nothing else to say. That's the curriculum. Even if he wanted to teach the whole story instead of the fragments that the government, I don't blame him. He didn't write the U.S. history book. He didn't write the U.S. history book, so I'm not upset with him. But the reason why I felt compelled to respond because publicly on my video, my YouTube channel, is because he responded publicly, and I wasn't even talking to him. So now I have to respond because when people see stuff publicly, and then now people may think like, well, is Leon the one that's tripping? Is Leon the one that has an issue? Or is it the U.S. history professor? So I have to let people know, like, okay, well, if you're going to step into the octagon, and then, okay, we can do that. We can do that. I don't even want to look at it as a UFC battle of the intellects. I don't even want to see it like that because I'm sure he does know more than what I know, but I know a little something. I know just a little bit something, a little something. So I'm in this class. He's showing mad love, still showing mad love. Even today, still to today. Today was the message. The message came in today on Facebook. Check it out. But he's showing mad love, and that's all good. But I felt compelled to address some things, what he said. Okay, so I'm in his history class. Now let's skip over to the fact that he did the posting. So we don't do the post. We don't address the posting now. So the posting said that I am so excited that you are getting excited, right? Now, mind you, I'm just assuming that everything that is being said right now is in Good favor, right? Good favor, right? I'm not going to read into anything until we get to the second sentence, is when I said, oh, wait a minute. Wait 1 second. U.S. history professor. Wait 1 second. You see, I got nothing but love for him, because I could have my Samuel L. Jackson voice and I could be going in on a whole nother level, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. God told me to be humble about it, because you don't, until you see someone face to face, you really don't know, like, not the energy, because I don't want to get into that type of talk, because I don't do that stuff. I understand the body's filled with energy, but like, people have used energy as like a whole nother entity or something. I'll teach on that later. But anyway, so I don't know the true motives, but the fact that it didn't come, this message did not come to me privately through my messenger. He could have clicked on messenger and typed the message and then left it at that, but he put it publicly underneath my message of what I posted, which wasn't to him. It was to my Chinese U.S. history teacher. But because he's a U.S. history teacher and he was mine, I guess he felt kind of like, oh, let me defend U.S. history teachers. So that's good. That's good. You should do that. I think it's important that you stand up for what you believe in. Stand for something or fall for anything. Okay? But if you're going to rise up, let me be very clear of what you're rising up to, because I'm not the same student from the past. See, I tell Black people all the time, you're not dangerous because you carry a gun. Put that gun down. You want to know what makes you dangerous? Is when you walk into that local library and you start studying. Yeah, that's what makes you dangerous. They don't want you in the library. They don't want you in there. Because when you go into the library, you start finding out everything. Everything. Okay? So, let me read what he said, the U.S. history teacher. He said to me on my Facebook page, he said, I am so excited. I'm so glad that you are excited about history. Now, pause. I got to pause right there before I go on. I am not excited about U.S. history. Let's be very clear. My ancestors were enslaved for over 400 years. So let me say it again. I am not excited, pleased, or impressed with U.S. history. That was a curriculum that was given by the government into public schools, and that's what we went with. I don't make the rules, and neither do U.S. history teachers, or any teacher for that matter. You can't go there and teach your own curriculum. You teach what they tell you to teach. You are an employee. You can go to your supervisor all you want, but that's what the government says is going to be taught, and that's what they're teaching our kids, our students. So when he said that, I was like, okay, it is what it is. He was like, you're excited, but that word excited, I think it was used out of context. It was used in a way that, like, I didn't like it. Like, I mean, I get it. I see things from different dimensions. So I think from his perspective, it's like, man, I know you're excited, Leon. Keep going, bro. Keep going, man. You're getting the education that you say you missed. Like, I'm excited for you, man. It's good to see that you're excited about history. But I want to be very clear. The message that he's responding to says nothing about me being excited. It says specifically, I'm tired of U.S. history teachers teaching fragments and not the whole story. You see my facial expression? This is what I was saying. That's what compelled him to respond. It's not that I was up there saying, oh, yeah, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Wait a minute. Who are these people? We'll call them Indians. We'll take them to Spain, enslave them. History. No, this is all bad. This is all bad. If you're watching this right now, I don't care who you're watching, who's watching it, go to YouTube and type in 13. There's a documentary called the 13th Amendment. That's the U.S. Constitution. That's in the U.S. Constitution. Just watch that. And I bet you will start wanting to research the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment, because you will say, well, why wasn't this taught to me in school? The 13th Amendment was told to me, but it wasn't taught in long details. You got to understand something about the public school system. They let you go to a class for about 50 minutes. And in that 50 minutes, your teacher or professor has 50 minutes to teach you all of history Monday through Friday for 5 months each semester. So depending on where you live at, you should make your curriculum, if you can, based on where you're at. So if I'm a U.S. history teacher in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I better at least for 2 weeks, no less, talk about the 1921 race riots. And not just breeze through it, passively. Like I want you to make all of your students, Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Chinese, do a report, like 10 pages. Don't go light. This is college. Let them do 10 pages talking about what they thought about it, what they learned from it, and how they can do better. How can they teach the next generation? The whole point of being a teacher is to teach. And when you fail to teach, then people later on in life, light bulb moment, they say, wait a minute, you're telling me you're telling me what you're telling me that this was, why didn't they tell us? We were in class 50 to 60 minutes Monday through Friday, and they just kept talking about the same thing. Most of them was just telling stories, like personal stories. They'll ask the students, what do you think about this? The student doesn't know. Don't empower them yet. You got to teach them so then they can start responding. You ever been in a class in high school or college and they're asking everybody, hey, what do you guys think about it? They don't get to talk. That's the problem with America. We talk too much because of the First Amendment right. When you are in a setting like that, you are supposed to humble yourself as students and listen to the teacher. But where the teacher goes wrong is when they only want to teach certain fragments of stuff. Then later on in life, they feel bad when some of their students rise up and say, oh, you're telling me that person didn't discover that? You're telling me they were over there doing this in Egypt and over there in the Roman Empire, and you're telling me this? And you can't, let me say this. You can't teach the Roman Empire in one day. What you talking about? You can't teach the Roman Empire in one day. You can't teach on Africa in 1 week. That brings me to my next part of what he said, because I'm going to address it. I'm not mad. I love that guy. That U.S. history professor at ORU was awesome. But what I'm saying from my heart is that fragments is what was told and what was taught. So then he says, I'll tell you the first part, right? You say, oh, I'm so excited. You're getting excited about learning history. I'm not excited. I'm not. The second part, this is where he got me. This is where I started thinking. I said, I gotta take this to my YouTube channel. He then says, you must have missed my class when I taught on Egyptian civilization. You must have missed, meaning absent, Now he's implying that I, regardless of my race, I was absent on the day he talked about Egyptian civilization. Let me tell you something, people. Let me tell you something. If I was absent, it was probably because I was sick of not hearing the truth. I probably took a day or two off. Who knows? When you go to college, it ain't about perfect attendance. It's about going there and learning if they will teach the full story. So then guess what happens? He says that I must have missed. So now he's implying that I'm playing hooky or truancy is involved. You know, when you're skipping school, now he's implying with his words, not mine. And I'm not taking it out of context. That's why you got to be careful when you post stuff and when you say stuff, because words have power. And if you, such as myself, have studied the etymology of words, you know exactly what's being said. He's basically trying to defend himself as my former U.S. history teacher. He's saying basically, I must have missed class. Nah, bro, you must have missed class, because when I was in the class, I remember a lot of storytelling. I have other students that took the class too. My wife took the class with the same U.S. history teacher and can attest to, oh yeah, he told a lot of funny stories and stuff. Well, guess what? If you're telling funny stories, I'm not learning about my culture in Egypt. Right? If it's a comedy show, and you know I know about comedy, then I'm missing something. Every time you tell a joke, I'm missing out on what my culture wanted me to know. Come on, somebody. I'm going to have to change martial arts suits now. See, this is the Grand Master, so I only wear this when I'm about to teach. So pay attention. So it was said that I, Leon Pearlie, from his words, must have missed his class. Right? Let me tell you something. I don't miss class. I don't miss class. And the proof of that is my bachelor's degree that I received in May 2010 when Dr. Ben Carson spoke at my graduation. Let me put that out there. You don't get a college degree unless you've been in the class and taking notes and taking tests and passing tests and graduating, meaning that I took his class and I passed his class. That's all you need to know. You can't pass. You can't graduate if you fail your gen eds. They can't move you on. This isn't high school. High school, they would do stuff like that. I know. But no, in college, it's higher learning. It's different. These professors are there to say, hey, are you ready for the challenge? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So when I saw the words, he had me thinking for a second. Wait a minute. I wasn't missing his class. He was being sarcastic. He was being facetious. I get it. You must have missed my class when I spoke on Egyptian civilization. Let me make this other side note. As a professional debater, Egyptian civilization can be mentioned in U.S. history, but it is not technically U.S. history. It's world history. See why you got to take your time before you speak? World history is an international study of countries. U.S. history, we'll talk about the 50 states. Am I right or wrong? Hit the like button. Let me know. Comment. I only can speak the truth. I'm not giving you fragments. I'm giving you the whole thing. Egyptian civilization will place me where? In Egypt. Is Egypt in the United States? No, sir. No, ma'am. Now, if you want to get into the transatlantic slave trade, where the people in Africa had slaves, and then the Europeans would come in, and then they would trade things, trade goods for human life. And then we traveled on a 2-month voyage, chain, my ancestors chain. They're not slaves yet. They're just stolen Africans. And so then they're pooping and peeing on each other, dying right there on that boat, on that ship, from diseases, from sickness. That's probably why America has so much sickness now. Because the Europeans had us in chains, my ancestors, right? They were in chains. That's why I couldn't finish. Well, I did finish Amistad and I finished 12 Years a Slave. But listen, they were in chains. And a lot of them were scraping with their nails to try to get the shackles off. And a lot of them jumped ship. They jumped over. Now, you want to know why you don't really get this deeper description? Because if I'm a white U.S. history teacher, I'm not going to talk bad about my own people, my own ancestors. But if I'm a black U.S. history teacher, I'm going to talk about it. Why do you think there's HBC schools, historical black colleges? What do you think those U.S. history professors are talking about? Those shackles. 2 months, if not more, on the ocean. Blood everywhere. We get dropped off in the Caribbeans. And we arrive in Virginia. And you know, I was thinking about the Civil War, how the South wanted slavery in the North. The abolitionists, they fought against that. They wanted people to be free. And you read about Frederick Douglass and Mr. Garrison, who had the Liberator newspaper, and you see how there was that divide with the Civil War. And the thing about it, people that are tuning in right now, the Civil War, there's still a Civil War. There's still a Civil War going on out there. I still feel like in my spirit, I still feel like in my soul that all of this stuff that has taken place in America has caused more and more division, even in the churches. Even in the churches, they'll preach fragments too. Now, I go to a Christian church. It's non-denominational. It's called Read the Red Church, and I enjoy it. We speak the truth from Genesis to Revelation. But when I was studying Genesis chapter 10 the other day, I found that the Hamites, you know how Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And I was looking at the Hamites in Genesis chapter 10, and I saw that he named his first son, his eldest son, Cush. So then I said, where's that at? And it said, those are the Ethiopians. They're in Ethiopia. I said, in Africa? And then I did more research and found that Kenya is included in that population. And then the next son of Ham, under the Hamites, was Egypt. And so I started thinking to myself, why is the church not telling us about Africa? And why is it that they just tell you the same stories over and over again, and they never change it? How many times can you tell me Daniel survived in the lion's den? How many times can you tell me that David defeated Goliath? Those are great and powerful stories. But there's Genesis 10. You haven't taught about that. Ezekiel 13, the false prophets. You haven't taught about that. Lamentation, Leviticus, Mark, Luke, John, Acts. Come on. Jesus had over 55 parables. This isn't about race. This is about getting the full story. Because Jesus Christ said it, that once you know the truth will set you free. So if I did miss a class, there's no way that this U.S. history teacher taught all of the Egyptian civilization in a day or 2 days, or however long he assumed I missed. And I thought that was pretty interesting that he assumed I missed when I was like the only guy that would come to his class dancing and always smiling. And so I'm not hurt by it. It just compelled me to see things differently now, you know? And so I started thinking too about Black people dancing. You know, during slavery, the white slave master would wake the slaves up, the Black slaves up in the middle of the night, and they will have them play music and dance. And I was thinking to myself, because I know it's in the movie 12 Years a Slave, why would he do that when they have to get up early in the morning to work on the plantation and pick the cotton and the tobacco? And what the Lord revealed to me, right? Because like I said, this isn't Black people mad at white people mad at Black people in my eyes. There are people out there that feel that way, but maybe because they were lied to, maybe they didn't get the full story. But for me, I was thinking, why would the white slave master have the Black people get up in the middle of the night to dance and to play the violin? And the Black people were doing this stuff, the Black slaves. It dawned on me, it was for their entertainment. It was for the white people's entertainment. Now, I'm not saying my U.S. history teacher saw me like that, because I enjoy dancing. I enjoy dancing still to this day, but I noticed something. Why do I get a lot of bookings with white people for comedy? It's because I'm an entertainer. And so I started thinking about history and the blackface, you know, when Black people would paint their face. And I started thinking about, like, this has all been entertainment while everybody else, Europeans and Jews, everyone else is getting richer and richer by giving us fragments. By giving us fragments, man. Fragments, not the whole story. I remember having another professor at ORU that was very, very racist, but like he loved me though. He loved me. And he taught in radio and stuff. That's all I remember. But he would do a lot of stereotypes. Oh, Leon, Black people are always late. Well, Black people, you guys like sagging. Your pants halfway to the ground. And Black people, you like fried chicken. And why he would say these things. And I would just laugh it off like, oh, you silly. You watch too many movies and everything. But I wasn't sagging. I presented myself very appropriately. But that's how he saw Black people. And he invited me over for dinner before. But once again, in slavery, was there not a Black guy that the white slave master would say, hey, you get on the horse and you whip your people? The white slave master would have a Black guy get on the horse, and it was like he was the house Negro. I'm not going to say the ER. I'm not there yet. I'm not going to say the N word with the ER, but I'll say Black Negro. That's appropriate, I believe. And so the white slave master would have this Black Negro get on the horse, and he didn't have to work the field. All he had to do was ride around on the horse, and he'll whip some of the slaves, and then he'll go back in for some lemonade. He could use the bathroom inside the house where the other slaves had to do it outside. This is all history. This is all history. If a church tells you, oh, well, just focus on these 3 biblical stories, why are they not? Why are they getting richer? Taking all these offerings, a 9 a.m. service, 11 a.m. service, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. service, Saturday night, 5 p.m. service. That's 4 offerings a week, 16 a month. But they're still telling me that David defeated Goliath when they should be in Genesis chapter 10. Telling me about Cush, the Ethiopians, how in Egypt there were dark-skinned people. Now, again, that's not about race, because there's only one race. God made the human race. That means if I need to give my kidney to a white man to save his life, I can do that. It's not about race. But if you don't tell me the whole story, if you don't even sit down with me and care enough to teach me the whole story, then you're wrong. The last thing he said, well, let me say this. There was another professor. She was really, really nice too. And she looked me in my face my last semester there at ORU, and she said, if you don't pass my class, you're not going to graduate. And I started thinking to myself, that's messed up. How are you going to try to dictate my future? So I went to my counselor. I got out of her class, took another class, because the counselor said, oh, you don't have to take that class. It's not mandatory. They had just recently changed the curriculum. So she would have been right if she would have humbled herself. But because pride started to rise up to the occasion, God was looking out for me. And so instead of seeing me fail, right, instead of her saying, hey, I can teach you how to get this so you can pass, right? Teachers need to go the extra mile. I can teach you this so you can pass. Instead of saying, oh, if you don't pass, I'm trying my best too, you guys, because my parents are coming down from St. Louis. I got to graduate, man. So I go talk to my counselor, and my counselor says, you know what? We could drop her class. We can get you in this class, but you have to pass. I said, say less. Well, actually, I didn't say that. That term has been coined recently by teenagers in 2021. So, but back then in 2010, I should have said, if I would have thought about that, it's like, you got to take this class. Say less. I got this. So I would have passed those classes, which I did. And I walked across the stage and she shook my hand. She was on the stage that day. And so again, she's another one that is a phenomenal supporter of mine. The reason why I remember those stories is because those encounters stick out to people. They stick out to people. The U.S. history teacher is also a pastor. He knows I'm a comedian. Why hasn't he booked me to come and make the people laugh? The lady I was talking about, the professor, she works at a church. Why hasn't she talked to the pastor or the youth pastor and said, hey, have Leon come out? He's already been interviewed on Charisma magazine. We're talking about power, people. See, prejudice means that I won't give you a chance because of the color of your skin. Racism is about power. I have the power to call who I think you should do business with. I have the power to say yes or no to an opportunity in your life. You see how it works? I talked to a guy one time that said that. He said, if you do a good job at this mega church, which I did, he said that I'll make a call to this person over here to get you in. That's power. Did he ever make the phone call? No, he did not. He apologized later on. When I went and did that show, mind you, there's 20,000 members. You know how many people came to the show? It was a free comedy show. 75 people. 75 people. There's 20,000 white people in that church, but only 75 showed up that night. And guess what? Out of 75, there was only 20 white people. 1921. Successful black people. Successful black people. No matter how hard you try, you're still a black person. So the last thing that the U.S. history teacher said in the text publicly, the first part, I'm glad that you're excited about history. The second part, you must have missed my class when I taught on Egyptian civilization, which again, I say you can't teach on Egyptian civilization in a week. That's going to take a few years if you want to get technical. It's too much to know. So again, my point exactly, fragments. But the last thing that was said was keep studying, my good friend, and stay curious. And I looked up the word curious because I wanted to make sure I understood what was being said to me. The word curious It means to be eager to learn. The word curious means to be eager to learn. And I do appreciate his words because it's true. I am eager to learn. Whether or not he reaches out to me and says, is there something you have a question about? Because I can teach you. That wasn't extended to me yet. But what I will say is that he had it right. I am eager to learn the whole story.